All right, here we are again. Day 2 of videos. We're day like 987 of the freaking quarantine. Everybody's going stir crazy. We were going to do this video live, but because of social distancing and everything, Jonesy's not allowed in my house. So he's sitting on his couch. Um, After last night's video, I had a lot of people actually comment and give me some good feedback, and it was great to hear. And we decided today to do another video. I brought my right-hand man, Jason Jones, in to help me out. We're going to break down the NFC South and then just kind of jump around a little bit. We're going to make like bold predictions and just kind of see where to go from there. But we're going to try and keep it rather short, so it's not going to be super detailed, but we're gonna do the best we can. So NFC South, it was pretty much a one-team division last year. You know, the Saints were obviously the out-and-out favorite. They had the division won by like week 12. They were the only team above 500 in the division. Everybody else was 7-9 or worse. So it's not a great division. But in the beginning of the offseason already, you know, there was a lot of crazy moves that happened. So, you know, right off the bat, this division, again, it's going to be wide open. And anybody that's familiar with the NFC South knows it seems like every year, whatever team wins the division, the following year normally takes last in the division. That's always seems to be how it works. So just because the Saints were amazing last year doesn't mean they're necessarily going to win the division this year, even though it's looking like they probably still will. But who knows? That could happen. You want to start off Atlanta?
Yeah.
That dumpster fire.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they started off as a dumpster fire, but right after week 10 and that big win against Atlanta, like all of a sudden they become a new team. I mean, they actually were putting on some good quality wins. They didn't completely tear through the division after that, but you know, beating New Orleans, playing them tight the second go round. They beat San Fran in San Fran, which personally hurt my feeling. Like, to me, like, I know a lot of people in that game didn't even think they were going to be in the game, but you know, they were able to come down with a last-second booty touchdown with Julio Jones.
The problem with they started in week 10. That was the problem. You know, they went 1-5 to start the season before they decided to really turn it on. So I mean, they were already more than a quarter of the way through the season when they decided, oh, I guess the season started. I guess we should start playing now.
Yeah. Yep. And I think I don't know. I guess the question turning about is like, what was the turning point? Was it just getting familiar with the offensive scheme with the new offensive coordinator, or if it was just a motivational thing, they just, you know, was in a bad slump and it took that win against New Orleans to snap it out, like, yo, guys, we can play. Hopefully that kind of carries over. I mean, they did have a huge turnover, you know, losing Austin Harper to Cleveland. Which was, other than Julio, was their main pass catcher. Because I think Ridley was hurt for a while and he came back and he started to get into his fold.
Yeah, he was banged up for a couple weeks.
They did add Laquan Treadwell, who coming out of college going to Minnesota, I was kind of high on because he's one of those, he's a route runner guy, but for some reason never got traction in Minnesota, was very up and down. I know they cut him. Then Adam Thielen got hurt. They brought him back in. I mean, he still didn't do anything. So hopefully change the scenery for him actually makes an impact in his career and he can actually pick up the slack. I mean, because
Matt Ryan started off slow too. That was the problem. He was turning the ball over earlier in the season.
Well, they weren't protecting him. I mean, he was getting feasted on a regular basis, like in the first couple of weeks. I think that might have been like one of the big things is towards the end, they were actually starting to protect him a little better. Like even San Fran's defense really didn't get to him, you know, I mean, and that's where around week 10 is right around the time, like, I think D Ford was starting to become healthy. They had him on a snap count, but you know, Buckner, Armstead, they wasn't touching Matt Ryan, you know, like they were doing Aaron Rodgers. So that might have actually been a big thing. They actually were just giving him time to actually distribute the ball. I think the lack of their running game, I think, is probably also a thing too. I think they were trying to get that going, and it wasn't until right around that time they decided just to completely abandon it. You know, Devontae Freeman just wasn't the same player. They had lost Tevin Coleman, so there was no reliable backup person to lean on.
And the problem was they had 6 losses by the time they got to like week 10.
Yeah.
So they only had 7 weeks after that to try and turn it around. And granted, they only lost, 3 more games in a 7-week period. But at that point, it didn't matter. It was too late.
Yep.
But it seems like since the Super Bowl, Atlanta hasn't been able to get out of their own way. Dan Quinn hasn't been able to seem to really get that team over that hump. Matt Ryan has never gotten back on track since that year, which was also his MVP season. The running game has not been good, which is why they got rid of Devontae Freeman. And, I mean, you'd expect that to change bringing in Todd Gurley, but at the same time, Gurley with his injury issues, if he was still the Todd Gurley that we saw in the years up till now, the Rams would have never got rid of him. So you got to wonder what kind of player is Gurley now. Are you going to see that same guy that he was, 3 years ago where he was an absolute monster? Or are you getting the beat up, my knees are killing me, Todd Gurley, who now he's more of a name than an actual asset to have?
I think it might be a little. I think it's going to be a little bit of both. I think you're going to see him because he's not going to be the workhorse running back in Atlanta. It's kind of this. You might hear it in later videos. The kind of argument I make with San Fran, like LA is a running team. Like that's their bread and butter. Todd Gurley was gashing teams. It opened up play action, and that's what gave Brandon Cooks, Robert Woods, Cooper Kupp all those wide open passes that they could yak off of afterwards. Making the linebackers pinch in, they slide in behind them, Goff hit them with a quick strike, they take it to the house. It was that thing. When Gurley kind of took a step back or took a couple steps back and he couldn't be that dominant rushing force, LA struggled. Well, in Atlanta, it's a different subject. Atlanta is a passing team. They're passing oriented. Their offense runs not through their running back, but through Julio Jones and getting him the ball and letting him do work. And basically Devontae Freeman just kind of makes it easier for him.
And you can see that. And you can see that with their stats as well, because they finished 3rd last year in passing. So they obviously are a passing team first.
Right. Now, granted, I mean, yeah, some people might make the argument, well, they're a passing team because Devontae Freeman wasn't very good, not since the Super Bowl. He hasn't really come close to rushing for 1,000 yards. I mean, it's one of those things where the running game isn't viable there. So, like, they have to pass. But to me, I still would say that teams that predominantly – there are teams that are like, when I say passing teams, I mean the teams that they just pass. Like, it's not play action. Like, they're under center, they're shotgun, they're throwing it out of, like, different formations. Most teams that are running is always, like, either max protect, twin tight end setup. There's, it's basically you look at the formation, you think run, and all of a sudden they're throwing it over the top of you. Like, Atlanta doesn't have to do that. Atlanta can just show up in shotgun. Like, it's going to be a pass play, and you just have to try to stop it.
And they still have 2 of the best wide receivers in the league. Calvin Ridley and Julio Jones are still top-notch wide receivers. So obviously you got to feel like offense isn't really their big issue. It was probably on the defensive side of the ball. And that's why they turned around in the draft and went very defense heavy in the draft and didn't really seem to worry. They weren't really worried about offense. The only thing that they did get in the draft was their 3rd round pick. They picked up a center, Matt Hennessy, out of Temple in the 3rd round. So obviously they're trying to get Matt Ryan some more protection. But other than that, they're focused on, all right, let's try stopping teams because, I hate always going by stats, but you look at their stats, they were putting up after the first half of the season when they got their heads out of their ass, they were scoring points. So that wasn't their issue. Their issue was they couldn't stop anybody. So at least they went out and, they picked up A.J. Terrell from Clemson in the draft, who is a big, rangy corner. So he's going to, at least help, stop the bleeding.
Oh, I mean, it was a good 1-for-1 swap for him, too, because, like I said, they lost Desmond Trufant. Trufant is gone now. So, drafting him, it's a nice stopgap. Plus, he's younger, cheaper, all that all that good stuff. Yeah. So I think he might be being that I think he's taller than Desmond. I think Desmond is I think 5'11". I don't think he was a really tall corner. So to have him, but still be able to keep the speed and the agility that Desmond Trufant was possibly known for, or was
Oh,
known.
AJ Terrell's a big corner. He goes 6'1", 200 pounds.
Yeah. So
He's a big guy.
Yeah, hopefully he fits in. The only question I have about Atlanta going into the 2020 season though is that lack of pass rush. Like, I think a lot of stuff that frustrated their secondary was the fact that QBs against them had a lot of time to throw the ball.
Well,
and
that's why
they basically had to rely on blitzing QBs in order to put pressure on them, which in the long run, if you don't get there, you usually get burnt.
Well, that's why they went out and got Marlon Davidson in the second round from Auburn, an edge rusher, an absolute mountain of a man. I think he goes 6'4", 305. He's a monster. When if you watch him play, he is so wide. It's just ridiculous. They said him coming off the edge is the equivalent to like a mudslide. You are just not going to be able to stop him once he gets some momentum. That's a wrap. Just get out of his way, or you're getting bowled over. So, they're obviously trying to, like I said, to stop the bleeding. They picked up some linebackers, some edge guys, some corners. So, as much as they're going to try and stop the bleeding, though, because of the division that they're playing in right now, it's going to be hard for them. So, we'll go on to the next team being Tampa Bay. And
Tama Bay,
whatever he wants to call it now, freaking egomaniac. Tom Brady now going down, taking his talents to Florida, and trying to turn that team around, where really you look at their quarterback situation last year. They had a 5,000-yard QB who threw 30 touchdowns. Now, you would think that would be all you needed and all you really want. I mean, a quarterback throwing 5,000 yards and 30 TDs, that's an MVP season, until you found out that he threw 30 picks to go along with it. And then if you add the fumbles, there were 7 more. So when you're turning the ball over 37 times, it's kind of hard to win football games. But they decide, like, okay, we're going to get away from Jameis Winston. And I'm shocked that they decided to actually let him go completely. Because I feel like maybe if they would have kept him there behind Tom, he could have learned and, been molded into a better quarterback. Because obviously he's got some natural talent, athletic ability. You don't throw for 5,000 yards in this league and suck. You just don't. So he obviously can throw the ball. He just really needed to stop turning it over, because there was times where he was just reckless with it. And a lot of it had to do with him not making the proper reads, not recognizing blitzes, not recognizing schemes, not being able to find his dump-off guys. Sometimes just doing the simple thing and taking the sack instead of just throwing it up. So they go with Tom. And we know what Tom brings, so we don't have to go into detail on what he's going to do there, because we know what he's going to bring to the table. We know if you keep him upright and not under a lot of duress, he's still one of the best damn quarterbacks in the league. So they have him.
We don't know
that.
We don't know that yet. This is the year that's going to tell that. I mean, because he ain't under Bill Belichick no more. He under Bruce Arians now. So, okay, we know that the tools for QB, he's accurate. He can make every throw. He's got good timing. He's got good pocket awareness, patience, and stuff like that. We know that Tom Brady possessed those things, but but the thing we don't know is that if it's that, or if it's just the way Bill Belichick calls his play or calls the game.
Well, see, that's
the thing. We have to find out.
I hear you. Bill's calling the game, but at the same time, when Brady's at the line of scrimmage, Bill's not in his ear telling him what reads to make, what things to do like that. So just flat out playing football, we know what he's going to do on the field. Now, will the game plan be good and things like that? Yeah, that's on Bruce Arians. But when it comes time to just make the read and diagnose the scheme, find your your dump off man and call out audibles, Tom's going to be able to do that. That has nothing to do with Bill Belichick. He'll be fine with that portion of it. The portion that you're talking about is, are they going to be, will he be successful? Yeah, who knows? That is going to come down to Bruce Arians trying to set up actual game plans for the teams that he's playing against. So we talked about this earlier before you did the video. I've never been a huge fan of Bruce Arians. I think he's a good coach. I don't think he is a great coach. So I don't think he's bad. I don't think he's like a Hugh Jackson type where you have to win in spite of him.
Would you say he's one of the coaches that tends to outthink himself? Like overthink the game plan? Like, because he realizes like, okay, I'm a forward-thinking head coach. I got good ideas, but he ends up almost kind of like micromanaging the game and overthinking and overdoing the game plan as opposed to just letting his plan go, just letting it flow. If there's some misfires, you make your adjustments and then you reattack. Yeah, it's more so like he tries to do too much.
I wouldn't say he tries to do too much. I noticed he has one of his biggest issues was he has a real bad tell. Like anybody plays cards or poker, so you have a real bad tell. He doesn't do real well with disguising formations and stuff like that. It's pretty easy to coach against him because he's more of a smash mouth kind of guy. Like what you see is what you're going to get. He doesn't try to use a lot of movement and stuff in his formations or anything like that. So his offenses are kind of bland to look at, but I wouldn't say he outcoaches himself. He's just not real flashy. He's not a Sean McVay where he's going to, move tons of people around and, there's nothing like that. He doesn't do stuff like that. But I do know that he does struggle to adjust on the fly. Whatever his game plan is coming in is what he's going with. He has a very hard time making in-game adjustments when that plan isn't going right. So, that is going to be a huge thing that Brady's not used to because Bill Belichick, will have his plan and go out there and, okay, it doesn't work. And he has no problem just adjusting on the fly and moving a guy here, moving a guy there, and just keep rolling. And they figure out we talked about this. Football, as crazy as it sounds, is a game of chess. This is not checkers. Everything you're doing is to set up your next play, and you have to outthink the person. And nobody was better than Bill Belichick. And I think that's kind of what Bruce Arians lacks is he doesn't adjust real well when his game plan doesn't start working. So, and I had to see Jason Garrett had a huge problem with that, as well as Shanahan, your coach, the 49ers coach. He struggles with that too, with the in-game adjustments. And you'll see it sometimes when his plan works, man, they will absolutely destroy teams. But when they come out and all of a sudden it doesn't work the way he thought it was going to, he has a very hard time making those adjustments on the fly. And that's going to be the biggest interesting thing because Brady's used to having the best guy to probably ever do it when it came to that. He can adjust with everything. So I think that's what's really going to hurt them with a coaching change like that.
One last point on Jameis Winston before we move on. I mean, a couple of years, we're going to find out if him sitting behind a high-caliber quarterback is what he needed. Because, I mean, although he didn't get Tom Brady, he did get Drew Brees. He's in New Orleans now. They're back.
I think I'll put Drew Brees right up with Tom Brady, if not above him, when it comes to quarterbacks. I could care less that Tom Brady has 6 rings. That is a team thing. That is not an individual thing. That means the teams he were on were phenomenal. And yes, they were. And he was a big part of that. I will not take that away from him. But I've said it a million times, I am not one of these guys that's going to call Tom Brady the GOAT because he's not. He's not the GOAT. And you can look at the quarterbacks that have been behind him that have had their opportunity to step in when Tom went down, or whether it be in different games, and they've all had success in that Bill Belichick, system. We know, I've said it, Peyton Manning to me is the greatest quarterback of all time. He could do it all. His stats were right in par with where they should be. 2 Super Bowls with 2 different teams. He actually took a team that was a dumpster fire and brought them to a championship. It's not like Brady who got handed the keys to a Ferrari and was like, hey, just don't crash this bitch. You know, they handed Peyton Manning walked into a dumpster fire and they were like, please stop the bleeding. So, yeah, to
We all
me,
know that. Yeah,
what's
not to
that?
argue. I mean, it's true, but I was gonna say, I mean, it could have been easily been Drew Bledsoe too. Remember, he got hurt in like preseason. I think game one. Actually,
Mhm.
no, I think it was the last preseason game, and it was just kind of like, well, we got Tom. We're gonna roll with Tom.
Yeah, well, when Tom finally took over, though, it was week 15. He took over a team that was already going into the playoffs.
Ah,
So, when Tom took over, Bledsoe had played the whole season and was playing great. He took over in like week 15 that year. And granted, he played great through the playoffs and won it for him and everything. Like I said, I'm not taking anything away from Tom, but you know, you compare Tom Brady to Peyton Manning, and they're very different sides of the spectrum. We'll do a video on that
oh, yeah, that's
argument
gonna be fun.
alone because that will be a good one.
Yeah,
But
that's gonna be.
yeah, let's not get off the rails here. But yeah, you're right. Jameis Winston going to sit behind Drew Brees is another phenomenal place for him to be because who knows, he could turn into, you know, a beast there and learn a lot. And Brees' years are obviously numbered. He's going to be 41 coming into the season. So how many more years has he got? The fact that these guys are even playing into their 40s now is just incredible. So at a max, I'd say Brees has this season and maybe 2 to 3 more if he stays healthy. Because
Mm-hmm.
all these guys that are in their 40s now, they are one injury away from being done. Body doesn't heal up so well at 40.
Mm-hmm.
So um, with Tampa Bay now having Brady and already having Evans and Godwin and OJ Howard at tight end, who is a Pro Bowler, and then they bring in Gronk. It's looking like a 7-9 team can probably pick up 3 more wins and very well be a wild card team this upcoming year, especially because one of the holes that they had was that offensive line. That's why Winston was the most sacked quarterback in the league, which I said had something to do with the line. And it also had something to do with the fact that he wasn't able to pick up the blitzes and the schemes and stuff like that. He wasn't reading as fast, so he was getting sacked a little more. So I thought that would be down just in general from having Tom there because one thing he did in New England, he was always getting rushed. He was very good about getting rid of the ball very fast. So, that's one thing that he would be able to do in Tampa Bay. But just for reassurance, they made sure that they went out there and got him a lineman in the draft to help. And they got probably as lucky as you can freaking get and had arguably the best lineman in the draft fall into their lap with Tristan Wirfs. So, there you go. They just brought in a guy to here. Please don't get Tom killed.
Yeah, but to me, I mean, they protected the blind side, but they had problems all up and down the line. So, I mean, I agree with your point that, Tom Brady's a little bit better at reading defenses and seeing coverages than maybe Jameis Winston did. But Jameis got hit, I think it was 36 times. That's a lot. And even if you say, okay, well, a lot of it is because he didn't get rid of the ball, he held the ball too long.
46.
46?
46 sacks.
Yeah. So, I mean, unless you were saying that 20 of those sacks was because he just simply held the ball too long, I mean, there's still 20 hits that Jameis Winston was like, what, mid-20s?
Oh,
Either
yeah.
way, like Tom Brady at 41, 42 ain't taking that kind of bashing. Like, I don't think he's ever been sacked 20 times. And the fact that he's leaving a New England team that, graded may not have been the best offensive line it's had in years, but it was head and shoulders higher than what Tampa Bay had. So, yeah. I mean, to me, that's one of the big question marks in terms of, can he replicate that success that he had in New England, in Tampa Bay? It's going to be heavily predicated on, can they keep him upright?
Okay, so what's your early prediction right now? Record?
I can see them flipping. I can see them going 9-7 this year.
Okay.
Because the other thing that is their defense, their secondary, their linebackers. They're another team that they have a hard time applying pressure. I mean, the only person that's doing it right now, I believe, is Suit. I mean, they lost Gerald McCoy. Like, and ever since he left, like that your front seven it's I don't know, it's atrocious.
They did draft Antoine Winfield,
Okay. Yeah.
so they got an All-American safety.
Mm-hmm.
So that could help in the secondary. Okay, so you got him as a 9 and 17. I think I got him a little better than that. I probably got him at 10 and 6. I think they're 10 and 16. So, all right, Carolina. Carolina. This is a very tough situation to be in if you're the Carolina Panthers, because you are not just rebuilding, you're damn near starting from scratch, because you have a brand new coach in Matt Rule from Baylor, who only has 1 year of NFL experience, and that 1 year was like 20 years ago. I mean, not quite, but 15 years ago. The league was a lot different 15 years ago. So things change every year, and the league has evolved now so much that a lot of the knowledge he may have gotten, is just not like that anymore. As well as he coming from Baylor, where he went 19 and 21 as a head coach. He didn't even have a winning record in college. If you watched my video yesterday, I said the hire was head scratching. It makes no sense why Matt Rule would get the head coaching job there with the candidates that were out there. On top of having a brand new head coach, they also are now going to be starting with a brand new quarterback. Their franchise quarterback for the past 8 years that actually led them to a Super Bowl MVP, Cam Newton, is now gone. And as of right now, where's Cam playing?
What's that?
I said, where's Cam Newton playing now?
I don't know.
Yeah, I guess you can catch him at your local Best Buy or something. I don't know. He's not even on a team. So, but they did go out and they got Teddy Bridgewater, who spent the past 2 seasons behind Drew Brees. And you saw when he got his opportunity last year to play with the Saints, they were very good. I think he went 5-2 in 7 games. So he was very, very good. And for a while there, I think he had gone his first 4 or 5 games without even throwing an interception. And they were beating teams up. It looked like he managed that team just as well as Brees did, and brought another added element of athleticism to it that they didn't have. So they are bringing in a good QB. Now, the thing was, he was very good with New Orleans, because New Orleans had a good line and weapons all around them and a great coach. Now he's going to step into a situation where he's got a brand new coach who does not have a lot of NFL experience. The experience he does have is mostly with college, and it wasn't successful. And the only real weapon I would say he has right off the bat that he's going to have to lean on like there's no tomorrow is going to be Christian McCaffrey, who is the best all-around running back in the league. So that helps. But outside of that, I don't really know what they're going to do offensively, because if you look at what they did in the draft, they are the first team in, I believe, 18 years to go all defense, or at least all one side of the ball. They did not draft one offensive player in the entire draft. So you've got a team with not a lot of weapons and a lot of new faces.
But I think he's just replicating. He's taking I think the smart approach. Being that he's a rookie head coach, he's got a QB he's not really familiar with, possibly. Very limited offensive weapons. He decided, okay, first, one, we know we can run the ball. I got a 1,000-yard rusher in my backfield that no one can pretty much have a hard time stopping. Like, basically, you try to contain him, you don't stop him.
Who is also your number 1 wide receiver.
Yeah. And then, they did in the offseason, they picked up Roby Anderson from the Jets. You still have 2 first-round receivers in DJ Moore and Curtis Samuels, who I guess for some reason Ron Rivera just couldn't get them flowing into the game. Maybe this guy with his spread attack Baylor style.
Yes.
I wouldn't be surprised if it's something similar to what Cliff Kingsbury did in Arizona.
Mhm.
Very spread. Guys are just flying everywhere because, I mean, DJ Moore, Curtis Samuels, and Roby Anderson all have speed to burn. They're all like 4.3 guys.
Yes.
So I figure they keep people honest with the run, run the ball. They did get a Russell Okung to help shore up that offensive line from San Diego. Now, granted, I don't know what other key cogs they have on that line because I'm not very familiar with Carolina, but I mean, if he's just trying to say, okay, well, we can protect him, but we'll use Christian McCaffrey as dynamically as we can use him, which is pretty much everywhere. Dude lines up in the slot, in the backfield, split in, whatever. And then we're going to stack our defense. I mean, they got
which is what they did. And
yeah.
I mean, they went absolutely nuts in the draft on defense.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, seven picks all on defense, starting off with Derek Brown at D tackle from Auburn, who another one is just a freaking monster. That
Mm-hmm.
dude is so big. It is ridiculous. I think in the combine, he was 6'5", 335. Like, that is just, he's a mountain. He's the size of an offensive tackle, where normally you don't see D tackles that size. Like, yes, they're big, but they're not that big. This guy is an absolute monster. So, I'm all for picking up as much defense as you could possibly get. I still believe, even in this period of football, defense, I still feel wins championships. I know the high-flying offense is what people are paying to see and what they like to see, but I think when it comes down to it, defense is still what has to get it done for you, or it's really not going to matter. So I mean, even if you look at a super high-flying team putting up 40 points like the Chiefs did, and then you watch them in the Super Bowl, what actually won them the Super Bowl was defense, not offense. It was them picking a ball off by Jimmy G that actually wind up winning the game for him, and being able to keep San Fran, from being able to
playing not to lose.
Yeah, being able to burn all the time off the clock. So even in that aspect, when you have a big, high-flying offense, it was still their defense that wound up getting the championship. So Carolina's definitely going in the right way by what they're finally deciding to draft and who to bring in. But I think the biggest issue is going to be, a major lack of experience. So it's going to be a tough year for them. I mean,
well, the thing about it is they they have leaders. I mean, you've got Trey Boston in the backfield as your safety. You still got Keywan Short on your D line. So that's automatic, especially with Keywan playing. I mean, granted, he's a versatile guy. He plays inside, but I believe he plays mostly inside, so he can mentor Derek Brown. Then you also got the kid from Penn State, Gross Matos, who they say has got a ridiculous motor. They end up drafting also another safety, Jeremy Chin. Yeah. So yeah. So yeah. I mean, so in a way, like you said, they did defense, but I think they did it in a manner where they fixed their front end, and then they're trying to address their back end. Probably won't be able to throw deep on them a lot. I mean, Trey Boston, I think, was a Pro Bowler last year, and was a nice free agent pickup for them because he kind of settled them down in the back end. But I think they also were willing to focus on being able to stop the run. I think the thing that killed Carolina a lot in games was a team could jump on them and then just start running the ball, and they couldn't stop it. Like, you double team Keywan Short, and they were a sieve after that. But now having Derek Brown and Gross Matos, if he makes the starting lineup, which I think he has the talent and the potential to do it, it may be a little bit more tougher to run on them. Not to mention that Jeremy Chin is known to be, he's a hitter. He's a thumper.
Yeah.
He's a big athletic safety. So,
I was actually hoping the Cowboys were going to take him at one point when he popped up on the board when we were drafting, because he's a good player. Yeah, I think I agree 100%. They're moving in the right direction, but they were a 5-11 team last year.
Yeah.
I don't see that improving much. Maybe a game or two, but because that division, I believe, got better, the teams around them, it's going to be an uphill battle. I don't expect them to make a big push. I don't believe they're going to be a playoff team. So, I don't think they're going to be bad. They are rebuilding. I don't see them winning 3 games, but I think 7-9, 8-8 might be their ceiling.
I was thinking 8-8, just for the mere fact that because they finished last, they're going to get that soft schedule. They're going to play everyone that was at the bottom of their division. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of teams. I mean, they didn't.
I mean, that only covers 2 crossover games, though. So
hey, but that's 2 W's. So you figure, okay, right there, you're 7-9. You steal one from, say, Tampa Bay because they come into Carolina or New Orleans. I mean, and division games. Usually they're coin flips. Like no one saw New Orleans losing to Atlanta in Atlanta or in New Orleans. No. And they got whopped. So, division games are tough. You still won.
Yep. All right, now moving on to a team that I'm pretty sure we're on the same page. I mean, I still have New Orleans winning the division.
Yeah.
They didn't do they didn't lose a whole lot. They still got Drew Brees. They still got Sean Payton. They still got Michael Thomas, the best wide receiver in the league, Alvin Kamara, Taysom Hill. I mean, they're loaded all over the place. They've even picked up more players. They grabbed Cesar Ruiz in the draft where they actually needed to fill that hole on their line. So it looks like they took care of that. So I don't even feel like I really need to go too in-depth with this team. They're going to be right back in it in the playoffs, probably the division winner, and they're probably going to, I think the teams in the NFC that are the top teams are going to be very similar to probably last year. You're looking at it's probably going to be, again, San Francisco and New Orleans and Seattle. Like those are going to be your teams that are, there's not much that's going to change. They're going to be right there again. So I feel like that's pretty much how the NFC South is going to break down. I'll have Tampa Bay possibly making it, as a wild card, especially now that the playoffs have expanded to a 7-team. Maybe they can sneak in. New Orleans is going to win a division probably, with a 12-4, something like that. 12-4, 11-5. I mean, I don't see. I would say 12. I'd say 12 is probably their under/over for wins. They'd be right around there. So
I can do it, but only it's. I think I agree. But to me, I'm going leaning towards more 11, just because of the mere fact that their division is now much tougher than it was last year. I mean, given some variables, given how Carolina will play with their new coach, UQB. And if Atlanta can have that same steamroll effect they had at the end of last season, at the beginning of this season. Now, granted, if they start off slow again and Carolina can't get off the ground, they're easily, 12-4, 13-3 team. Like they're going to be unbelievable. I mean, you had Malcolm Jenkins in the back at safety, which I think was pretty much their Achilles heel last year. Like you could get New Orleans with the deep ball. That might not be the case this year. So it's going to be exciting for them. And then they got, of course, Emmanuel Sanders, who gives them a solid number 2. Someone else you have to worry about. You can't just key in on Michael Thomas. You got to worry about Sanders.
The other thing you can't forget is do not be a bit surprised if Dez Bryant winds up on New Orleans. The guy signed with them last year, and then in his first practice blew his Achilles heel out. And they still paid him $1 million to come in and practice with him for one day because he signed a contract $1 million of it was guaranteed. So don't be a bit surprised if come right around the start of the season, if Dez Bryant is still kicking around and nobody's picked him up, if New Orleans doesn't try to bring him in on a one-year deal, at least try to recruit their money. So that could be another guy that they add in the system. So, they're just going to get better and better. All right, now let's move a little bit. You actually yesterday said, hey, let's do a video about Super Bowl predictions. I thought about it and was like, it's so early. How do we even do a Super Bowl prediction video? but let's do it real quick. Tell me who you got. One AFC team, one NFC team right now. Who you putting in there?
San Fran and Kansas City. I think it's going to be a rematch.
Okay.
Just for the mere fact that one, because of the Kinlaw pickup at 13. Now, granted, yeah, it's probable. It's predicated on certain things, but if he plays to his potential that he was at South Carolina, getting double team, triple team every game, to now where he probably won't see a double team because you got all pros all over the place. Their D line is nasty. Their front seven is nasty. And you think I think there was 5 or 6 games where, 3 of our starting defensive guys, and at one point, I think it was almost up to like 5, they were injured. If these guys can stay healthy, and I said this last year, it's predicated on them staying healthy, like legitimately. I know you can say that about every team, but
that's always.
Yeah, but I mean, the drop off is drastic, like real drastic. If say for example, like if Ford goes out, because it changes the dynamic. Right now, you got D Ford on DN, you got Bosa on the other side, and you got Kinlaw and Armstead in the middle, and with Thomas and Quintarius Street and all those guys, DJ Jones coming in as rotational players. It's a Gatling gun. It's a Gatling gun D line. Like, they're going to come after you every single down. Like,
okay, so Kansas City and 49ers, and who wins it?
I think I'm going to say Kyle Shanahan learns his lesson and he plays to destroy them. Like, he's not going to play to not lose. We're going to get a 10-point lead, and then we're just going to run the most bland running plays ever. I'm going to do the opposite of what I did all year. I think he's actually going to, you give me the ball with 2:30, I'm going to try to score on you before the halftime. Like, I think San Fran wins it this time.
Okay. All right. So you're taking San Fran to be next year's Super Bowl champs.
Mm-hmm.
Ooh, what a surprise. You took your team.
Hey.
All right. I'm going to
last year too.
Yeah, I'm gonna say Kansas City. I'm gonna put Kansas City in for the AFC, and I'm gonna put New Orleans in for the NFC. I think they've been so close the past couple years. They lose a heartbreaker in Minnesota with Stephon Diggs, having his own guy get taken out and him running for a touchdown, the miracle in Minneapolis, and then all the crap that happened against the Rams when they played them and the no call. And New Orleans has been, knocking on that door of the Super Bowl for a while now. I think New Orleans gets to the Super Bowl. I think they're going to get there because the defense has gotten better. The offense has always been good. Like you said, they added a solid number 2 guy in there. I think they're going to have a good enough record that the road to the Super Bowl is going to go through New Orleans, and that's extremely hard to go into that dome and win. So I'm actually going to put New Orleans in the Super Bowl versus Kansas City, and I am actually going to take New Orleans to win the whole thing. And Drew Brees will get one more ring and then peace out and retire on top. So I'm going to take New Orleans over Kansas City in the Super Bowl next year. And the reason why I'm taking them to beat Kansas City in the Super Bowl is because I think they're very well matched offensively. But I think on defense, the Saints are a little better. And when it comes to coaching, I actually think Sean Payton's a better coach than Andy Reid, because I still feel like if 49ers had a better coach, Andy Reid wouldn't have the ring that he has now. So that's who I'm going to go with for the Super Bowl. I'm going to take the Saints and Chiefs, and I'm going to take the Saints to win it all, and Drew Brees go out Peyton Manning style on top at 41 years old, which happens the same age and everything. So, and let's try and wrap this video up. We said we do one bold prediction. It could be anything. Guy setting a record, somebody gets hurt, whatever it may be. What do you got? What's your one bold prediction this year?
my one bowl prediction this year, I think. Oh shoot, man, I lost track. Actually, I got
That San Fran wins the Super Bowl?
that's not a bold prediction. That's a shoe-in. Actually, I would say that bold prediction. Now, Super Bowl prediction and my bold prediction is kind of different. But my bold prediction is that Arizona pulls a San Fran-esque worst to first.
Okay. So you have Arizona now winning your division.
Yeah.
And San Fran is going to wild card in?
Possibly. Yep.
And where does that leave Seattle? Do you have Seattle not making the playoffs this year?
No, I got – okay, actually, I'll make that my bold prediction then. I'm sorry. Because now that I think about it, it don't make sense at all. Never mind.
So what just happened is I completely imploded your entire bold prediction.
You did.
All right.
I was like, oh, man. That didn't,
got that down.
That didn't make sense. All right. No, but the NFC West gets 3 teams in the playoffs.
Okay. You know what? Yeah, I'd say that's pretty bold. It's hard to get 3 teams in.
But it won't be the Rams. It's going to –
No,
I know most people would probably think, like, of course, San Fran, Seattle, the Rams.
Yeah.
I think Arizona gets in. And I think Arizona is going to be a lot scarier than what people think.
Okay, and I'm one of those people. I'm not really with you on that one. I still think they're not quite there yet. I don't think they're a 10-win team is what I should say, because it's probably going to take 10. Normally it takes 10 wins to get it. So I don't feel like they're a 10-win team yet, especially just because of your division. I mean, they can have 4 losses right off the bat just in your division. So I feel like that's a very tough thing to do because of how stacked your division is. And that's the thing. We're not even talking about the Rams because, yeah, the Rams did decline from the Super Bowl, but, I mean, who knows? Sean McVay is a great coach. They could reload. I mean, you really don't know. So, yeah, I like that. Yes, that is a bold prediction. So you've got the Cardinals being your bold prediction, making the playoffs, winning the division, and your division sending 3 teams to the playoffs. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I like it.
My still winning the Super Bowl, though. I'm the same.
Hey, it doesn't matter what seed you go. As long as if you get in, you're good. So yep. My bold prediction this year is going to be that Ezekiel Elliott is going to set the Dallas Cowboys single-season rushing record and win the rushing title again this year. Since he lost it last year to Derrick Henry, I think he's going to regain it this year, and I think he's going to have the greatest year any Dallas Cowboy running back has ever had. And he's going to break that record, and in order to break it, he's going to have to break 1,850 yards because that's what DeMarco Murray rushed for. Because there's probably a thing that a lot of people don't know. Emmitt Smith doesn't hold the record. Tony Dorsett doesn't hold the record. DeMarco Murray actually does. So he's got the single season rushing record for Dallas. And it's like it's right around 1,850. I don't know the exact number. But I think Ezekiel Elliott actually is going to have the best season he's had yet. And I think it's all because of what the Cowboys did in the draft, picking up CeeDee Lamb, and how stacked we are at wide receiver, and defense is having to play that honest now, coming out and having to match up. You're going to see a lot of one-on-ones because you're going to see a lot of nickels and things like that. So there's a very good chance that if our offensive line obviously stays healthy, like you were saying, stays healthy, and they are able to be what they have been in the past couple of years, and also adding the center that we brought in, Tyler Badass, not Badayish, Tyler Badass, that there's a very good chance they're going to open up some big holes, and he's not going to see contact till 5 yards down the field. And we know Zeke is a thumper, and if he gets a head of steam on him, it's lights out. He's just going to run and run and run and run and run. So I think he's going to have the best year he's ever had, simply because of defense is now having to play us a lot more honest and respect that passing game, because you have 3 legit wide receivers that can all gash you. 2 of them were already 1,000-yard guys. What's CeeDee Lamb going to be? I think he can easily be a 1,000-yard guy this year as well. So that's going to be my bold prediction, is that Zeke actually wins the rushing title and has the best year he's ever had. So that's where I'm at with that. And so we were going to do sleeper teams. I don't even think I have to ask you this. Is your sleeper team, I guess, the Cardinals?
The Cardinals. Yeah.
Okay. And my sleeper team is actually going to be Miami. I think that's a team that can make some noise this year. You look at what they did in the offseason, in free agency, on defense. They went out there and picked up a ton of guys. Granted, they overpaid for some of them. Bad. But they brought in some legit talent. They went nuts in the draft and picked up a bunch of more talent. They brought in a QB that they hope is going to be their franchise guy with Tua, and they got him some weapons. And I think because that division that they're in now too is wide open. It's not necessarily like, okay, New England's going to run away with this division. You know, you've got 4 teams in that division that if we sat here, I can probably make an argument for every single one of them on why they could win that division right now. So I think the division is wide open. Miami's got plenty of talent. As coach going into his second year, they were not bad last year. So, you know, I mean, you're talking about the team that pretty much kept the Patriots from getting home field advantage again. So, you know, that's going to be my sleeper team this year. I think they are going to be kind of like Tennessee was last year, where they snuck up on people. I think Miami's going to be able to sneak up on some people too. The division is wide open, so it's not like they have to go nuts and win 11 games. And no, I think as long as, you know, they stay within the hunt all year long, they could possibly win that division or wild card in. So I think Miami is going to be one of those teams that shocks a lot of people. And because they haven't been good for so long, that, you know, like the Cardinals, they will be able to sneak up before they realize what the hell's going on. So, So that's all I got. You got anything else you want to add?
Yeah. Real quick. Offensive rookie of the year, defensive rookie of the year.
Chase Young, defensive rookie of the year. I know it's kind of like the easy pick, but sometimes the answer is right in front of you. The kid's an absolute monster. The fact that he has Sweat on the opposite side of him, they can't necessarily double team him. He's got Jack Del Rio as a coach. They play in a division where, you know, guys do like to throw a lot, or I just think he's that much of a beast. I think he can take over and win defensive player of the year. I don't think that'd be a problem. And offensive player of the year, I think offensive rookie of the year, I'm gonna go with Joe Burrow. Another one. You know, I'm gonna take the easy picks, because I think Burrow is legit. And, you know, if it wasn't him, I'd be picking CeeDee Lamb, which is kind of just like, wow, what a homer move. So, you know, I'm gonna go with, you know.
That's my pick.
Yeah, I mean, I would too, but it feels like such a homer move being a Cowboy fan, being like, hey, he's probably going to get, you know, have 70 receptions for 1,000 yards because.
And then I'll do it for you because I'm a 49er fan. So, like, I think offensive rookie of the year is going to be CeeDee Lamb. To me, he's in that. It's like kind of like, yeah, he didn't get picked high, but he fell into like a really good spot. He falls into a team that's got a nasty offensive line that can block, that can run block. He's got a beast running back, an all-pro quarterback, and he's got help. He's not going to get keyed on day one. Like, no one's expecting him just to blow up. He doesn't have to put, like, Dustin Hopkins, you know, type numbers his rookie year. He can play anywhere on the field. He can play on the outside. He can play in the slot. He can play flanker, whatever. And he's a yak machine. So when you got Michael Gallup and Amari Cooper taking the top off the defense, and you can roam in the middle of the field or in a flat somewhere, catch the ball, and then just make people miss and take off, like, that's going to work well for you.
And you know the other thing? The
What's that?
one thing that's going to help him the most is there is 90% of the time he's going to be in the slot, so he's going to be facing safeties and linebackers. So I mean, he's going to have mismatches big time. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I mean, don't be surprised if the first, I don't know, half of the season, his numbers are just super out of control because he's coming out of the slot. And
Mm-hmm.
it takes half a season for defensive coordinator to realize, like, shit, we have to be in a nickel or a dime when they're in that formation on the field, because we can't run a 4-3 because he's such a mismatch against a safety or a linebacker. So yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if right off the bat too his numbers are just crazy because he's got Gallup and Cooper on either side of him. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
he really did fall into a perfect situation for
Yeah, and he's classified as a big slot because he's like 6'1". So I
him.
mean, he doesn't necessarily have to be in the slot. McCarthy can actually put Gallup in the slot, put him on the outside, and let him do his thing.
Yep.
It's nice. And then for me, the other situation is kind of like the same thing. I mean, most people would say he's a steal of the draft, and that's Isaiah Simmons. You know, he goes into an Arizona team where you got like a decent safety in Buda Baker, so you don't have to worry about like he's covering now, shutting down routes. You got Patrick Peterson, you got Chandler Jones, who led the league in sacks. You know, the previously last year on your other side, like, and he's versatile. He can blitz, he can rush the QB, he can cover tight ends and slot receivers. I mean, dude's and he's a hitter. Like I can see him, you know, causing turnovers, getting picks, sacks. I mean, he's a do-it-all Swiss Army knife for Arizona and that defense. And that, to me, that defense was, I think it's still one more player away. But last year, I would easily say they were 2 players away. They were real close in games. I mean, Cliff Kingsbury was, I think, still feeling things out as far as how his defense would go and how, you know, Kyler Murray was playing out. But have D-Hop on offense, which means they're going to score, which a lot of times is going to just allow him to be able to pin his ears and go after QBs and go after running backs a little bit more, not necessarily reckless, but with a little bit more aggression. It's going to be he's going to be put in a position where he can make plays, where he's not always going to be on his heels.
Yeah.
So I like him.
Yeah, I mean, another one went into a great situation without a doubt.
Mm-hmm.
What player do you have as your regression player? What player do you think falls off the most? Who had a great year last year, and you think this year it's not going to be even close? He's going to fall off big time. And don't you dare steal my person.
No, I kind of feel bad because a lot of people are going to be like, yo, you sure you're a San Fran fan? You're not as a bandwagon fan? No. I've been a San Francisco fan since Joe Montana out of Wheaties box. But I'm gonna say Eric Armstead. I think a lot of his. I mean, I'm sorry, like I'm a 49er fan, but like I'm a realistic football player. Like I'm gonna call it how I see it. I'm not gonna look through that lens and play with the Cheerios. But my thing is dude was a 1-year wonder. Like 4 years on the team, didn't do anything. And it took basically the acquisition of Dee Ford and Nick Bosa for him to actually finally shine. And I think also the fact that Buckner, despite the fact that he was getting a lot of focus, was still be able to pull up 7.5 sacks after putting up 12.5 sacks the year before.
Yeah.
Like if Kinlaw doesn't come in and is able to do that much to say with 6.5 sacks, which he's got the potential to do. I mean, like I said, you watch the highlights on this guy. This dude was getting double team, triple team. He was the only person on that South Carolina line, and he still came out with 6.5 sacks last year for South Carolina. He's coming to a team where he ain't seeing double teams. Like they're gonna be looking at Ford and Bosa and probably Armstead, but I think more so Armstead because they're gonna put him in that tackle spot. So he's gonna see a lot of double teams and bumps and chips. And I don't think he's gonna put up the same type of numbers. I think he is gonna regress. Like my mind, I think that was a mistake. I would have got rid of Armstead, drafted Kinlaw or something, you know, hopefully fell down somewhere. I mean, granted, he might not have gotten a first-round pick for Armstead, but I wouldn't have got rid of Buckner. Buckner was too much the heart and soul of that defense.
We were on the same page with that one. I said the same thing. If you were going to get one of them, and if you were really looking to get rid of one, it would have been Armstead to me. And I know the whole money thing and all that kind of stuff, but you know what? You get what you pay for. So,
Yep.
you know, to me, yeah, that didn't make sense to me either. So, all right, I like that. My guy, the reigning MVP, Lamar Jackson, is going to regress something fierce. One, I don't even think he's going to play the full season. I think he's going to get hurt. I'll start with that. I'm not sure exactly when it's going to be, but he's going to miss games. I think now that we're going into year 3, defenses and defensive coordinators have started to figure out the puzzle. And you saw it late in the season last year, and then when they got into the playoffs, they now have the recipe on how to stop him. And we knew the recipe from the beginning. Keep him in the pocket and force him to throw.
Mm-hmm.
And you saw when they kept him in the pocket last year in the playoffs and forced him to throw, it was a train wreck. And now, going into the 3rd year, these coordinators are all going to study the film on how Tennessee just completely exposed them. So I think Lamar Jackson, I'm not going to waver from where I was day one when he got drafted. I never thought he was good. Even in his MVP year, he should have won MVP. Christian McCaffrey should have. I don't know how you give MVP to a quarterback who barely threw for 3,000 yards. You know, like people got enamored with the fact that he rushed for 1,000. That's terrific, but he's a quarterback. So he needs to be able to throw the ball and do it when it matters, and he couldn't do it. He still struggles to read defenses. He doesn't audible when he should. He's still using his feet way too much. It's going to get him killed. This will be the year that it does. And I don't want people to get this twisted. I don't wish bad on Lamar Jackson. I could care less if he is great or if he's terrible. I'm just giving you my honest opinion on how he is as a quarterback. And as a pure quarterback, he's not good. And I think this year you're really going to see how not good he is. Because now that they have a recipe on how to shut him down, and it really is, keep him in the pocket. And if he is going to break and contain, you force him up the field and don't let him up to the outsides. And he is very, very easy to stop because his accuracy is seriously lacking, as well as his field knowledge, where he does struggle to pick up the blitzes, the audibles, things like that. So I think Lamar Jackson's going to go from MVP to, you know, whatever the complete opposite of that is. So I don't expect the Ravens to be as good as they were last year either. So I think that's going to be the biggest thing. You know, you got all those people talking about how he's going to be a monster again this year, and I think it's going to go completely opposite way. And not only that, you know, the gods just jinxed him because apparently they put him on the cover of Madden. So good luck.
Well, I mean, it didn't hurt Patrick Mahomes. So I think
Yeah.
as long as Patrick Mahomes didn't break the curse, which I know everybody and their mama would be happy if he did, but yeah, but I agree.
I don't think that curse has actually happened in a while. That was just a thing a while back. I think there's been a bunch of people now that have been on the box and haven't gotten hurt.
I don't know, man. Like I thought it was in full swing because they put Antonio Brown on it. He didn't play.
Yeah. Well, he didn't necessarily get hurt. He just went kind of crazy. So, all right.
Yeah,
that's it.
Yep.
So again, that video went 3 times as long as we wanted to because we just can't stop talking. But oh well. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Again, if there's anything we missed, you want to see us cover, let us know. Message us, share these videos, do what you got to do. Appreciate you guys watching. And, you know, we'll do another one as soon as we can. You got an idea for the next one?
No. I have to work. I don't think about that one. I want to do something dynamic.
I got some. I know somebody wants us to break down the Las Vegas Raiders. I don't know if I'm ready to do all that yet.
Oh,
I feel like an easy breakdown. I could be like, okay, you want to know the breakdown? Have you watched Clemson play? And have you watched Alabama? Or that's who they drafted, all of their players. The end. Uh, all right, we'll catch you guys next time. Peace.
Hey.